Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm Shawna Presley Vercher, the Political Fixer, and we are so excited to have you on our show this evening. Now, we've been taking a lot of your questions, getting a lot of your comments, and we have a packed show for you tonight. So get settled in and make sure you keep those questions top of mind because we have a lot of ground to cover, but we still want to hear from you. If you are new to a Political Fixer Live, this is how it works. We have an entire Political Fixer team that is here to make sure that we get through as much content as possible and that I see as many of you as I can. So all you need to do is enter your questions and comments in the chat below, and then our Political Fixer team is going to guide you to make sure that I see what I need to see and I get to you as soon as I can. So before I dive into the content, I definitely want to thank the team members that we have with us tonight, which is Jason, Sarah, Eddie, and Mia. Without the Political Fixer team, I assure you there is no Political Fixer, or at least not one organized enough to do everything that we try to get done for you on these TikTok lives. All right, let's talk about what you can expect in tonight's show so that you can start getting those questions ready. Our political buzz topic of tonight is going to be the Hunter Biden pardon. I'm going to make sure to tell you what my thoughts are, how I know I'm right, and I'm also going to give you some talking points that I believe you should probably lean on if you decide to engage in any loving conversations about this controversial issue. So we're going to be discussing the Hunter Biden pardon. If you have questions about that or specific ideas, definitely send those in the chat. Our positive news story is judges and more judges. I know it doesn't sound exciting, but trust me, it's a big deal. We get a lot of negative headlines every day, especially right now, but there's actually some really amazing positive things happening, and we want to share with you what's going on and why you should care about it. And then we have our Fixer call to action for the week. There is something we're going to be calling on all of you who would like to participate in to try to make a difference. We're also going to give you an update on Equal Rights Now, which is our effort to get women equal rights in the Constitution. So very excited to share the updates with you on that. And then we have a bonus segment for you tonight. We're actually going to give you some inside information that I got from the mountain on high, or I guess the Hollywood Hills on high, when I had the opportunity to visit Hollywood and sit down with some members of the TikTok team where they shared with us how they're going to support our Political Fixer community moving forward, some of the new things we can expect, and what that means for all of you. So we've got some great insights directly from TikTok that we can bring to you, and we're going to end with our Ask Me Anything segment. Whatever is the best, most creative, most insightful, or possibly most embarrassing, depending on what my team thinks of me today, question that you all have, you can send it in the chat. And when we get to the Ask Me Anything segment, then we'll make sure to answer as many of those as we have time for. And of course, we're going to make sure to send some love to our amazing Political Fixer subscriber community, our followers, and all of you that are so kind to shower gifts upon us. It is your engagement that makes this content possible. You have just done such a beautiful job of building this Political Fixer community over the last several months, and TikTok has noticed. That's why I got invited to meet with them. So I can't wait for you all to reap the benefits of some of what's going on. Okay, super, super excited about everything that's going on here. We've talked about what's going on tonight's show. We've told you to start enter your questions and things in. If you are a subscriber, and we want to make sure that we see you, so make sure that you send us an emote or something in the chat so that I can shout you out and say hello to you. Also, little spoiler here, subscribers are going to be getting a special video from me tonight after hours that has even more insights into the amazing meetings that I had in Hollywood with TikTok and what you can expect in the subscriber community as well. So I'm excited to share some of that. Looks like we are already at almost 4,000 likes. You guys are raring to go. You're going to keep me on my toes, I can tell. So let's dive in. All right. Let's start with the political buzz topic for this week, which is the Hunter Biden pardon. This has, for some reason, captured dozens and dozens of headlines. So I want to give you what my professional take is on the situation. I want to tell you what kind of reaffirms my take on this thing. And then I also want to give you some talking points if you decide to engage with friends, loved ones, or even online trolls about the issue. So let's start with the take. Should President Biden have pardoned his son, Hunter? And my answer is not only yes, but heck yes, why wasn't it done several months ago? All right, let's set some context here. Hunter Biden committed crimes that are literally victimless crimes. He did not commit fraud on a number of senior citizens with a fake Build the Wall charity like Steve Bannon, who received a pardon. He didn't try to sell access to the presidency, including selling access to pardons like Roger Stone did, who received a pardon. And he also didn't commit anything that was a financial crime where there were victims across the country like Jared Kushner's father is, or you might know him as the new ambassador to France, who was also pardoned for his crimes. These are literally things that a gun charge, as far as he didn't have the right permitting, some sort of tax charge that almost every U.S. attorney on both sides of the aisle say that if he had not been the son of a sitting president, it never would have gone as far as it did. I'm never going to say that crime is okay. However, we know that this was actually a political prosecution. And we know that the sentencing ahead would have likely been unfair and that it could have lasted into a situation that was extremely dangerous for our nation for months, if not years to come. How do we know that? Because the man who's about to enter the Oval Office had pledged to come down hard on him specifically, and also to come down hard and ensue a lot of punishment, dole out a lot of punishment on any of his political enemies. They were enjoying getting to President Biden. So then I asked myself, what would I do? Well, if it's a nonviolent crime, meaning this is not a situation where he hurt people and we're excusing it. This is a victimless crime, and my child was vulnerable for even one moment. Ask yourself what you should do. And we're going to get to that in just a second. So my take is absolutely he should have been pardoned, and that this is a non-issue when you consider the fact that presidential pardons are absolutely legal. You have the right to pardon whomever you would like within the constraints of the law. There were no laws broken here. And in addition to that, when you compare him to the other people that were pardoned by prior administrations, including the man who is squawking and yelling the loudest right now, the man currently occupying the Oval Office has had basically a conflict-free, drama-free, soap opera-free engagement as not only our president for the last 4 years, but as our vice president for years prior to that. He has had no scandal, he's had no drama, he's committed no crimes. And how has he been rewarded for that? Well, the opponents who don't like him, people that are squawking the loudest right now, particularly in the media, they didn't reward his scandal-free tenure with appreciation. They called him too old. They said that he wasn't of sound mind. They implied that he wasn't fit for the presidency. They blamed him when his vice president lost. There has been no loyalty there. So there is no reason for him to not use these very legal tools for his son to save him from whatever torture they were eagerly awaiting that they were going to give him. Now that's how I know that this is the right take, because I'm looking at who's squawking the loudest. I'm looking at what they're writing, and I want to call into example a couple of things. Number one, the rant by Jon Stewart, and number two, an article in the New York Times by Jeffrey Toobin. Both of them say that this is something that is hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy because Democrats are supposed to be better than that. Well, why? If it's legal, if it's a tool we should be using, shouldn't we be fighting harder? What are we getting exactly with our higher than thou, pearl clutching ethical standards that are not realistic and that no one else is held higher to? No one else is held to these standards. If anything, we need to start getting tougher and grittier. I'm not saying do anything illegal. I'm not saying do anything unethical. But using the tools in the toolbox to the fullest capability is exactly what we want Democrats to start doing. We want them to start fighting like this is serious. You know, many of you have been asking for a forensic accounting and a recount of some of these votes, things that would be legal. But because they're worried about how it will look or how it will sound or how it might feel in the future, then they're not using the tools at their disposal. So yes, I absolutely applaud President Biden. I think that going back to the media coverage that I was discussing before, Jon Stewart has been one of the harshest critics of President Biden. He has mocked him mercilessly. This is a man who has done nothing but serve his country for decades. He has experienced severe loss, not just of a child and of his first wife, the mother of his children, but also of his son, who died tragically of an awful disease after serving our country bravely in the military. And how is he repaid? By being called addle-brained and foolish and mocked. So according to Jon Stewart, I don't see why this is a problem, because according to him, Biden might not even know what he did. At least that's how you painted him for the last 4 years. And now let's talk about the New York Times and how they had an article by none other than Jeffrey Toobin. And if you don't know who he is, there's a reason for that. He was canceled. And because there might be little ears listening right now, I'm not going to go into the full details of why he was canceled and no longer appearing on these network television shows. But to have that man who cannot even demonstrate appropriate workplace behavior in front of women, particularly as his colleagues, hopefully you're reading behind the lines there, for him to say that he is the arbiter of what is moral, give me a break. So yeah, tune out that noise. And while you're at it, if anyone asks, then here would be my responses. Number one, for every article that they bring up about Hunter Biden and his pardon, ask them where the articles are about Jared Kushner and his father, which would be his daughter's father-in-law, a relative, something that directly impacted his daughter's household financially. Ask him. Ask people in the media where their articles were there. Ask them where their outrage is now that he's now the ambassador to France, a convicted felon who was pardoned and who is related to the man who's about to occupy the Oval Office. But if you want to win the argument, in my opinion, this is the bottom line. Would you want a human being in office that would not do what they could to spare their child pain? Would you want someone in office that could put their own political ambitions or their legacy or whatever nonsense people are standing on in their high horse? Would you want a man in office or a woman in office that would put that above their love of a child? Would you want to know someone like that? Because I wouldn't. And I think if we had more people in political leadership that acted as leaders with kindness and empathy and as real human beings, rather than worrying about how things are going to play out in a focus group, then we would be better off. But what do I know? I've just been doing this for far too long for my own mental health. All right, well, that's my take on political buzz for this week, the Hunter Biden pardon. Hopefully that gives you some information and some clarity as you're reading through all of this gaslighting nonsense telling you to feel a certain way. We're already up to over 21,000 likes and we're just getting started. I want to thank everyone for gifts that are coming in. We really appreciate things that I'm seeing here. I'm seeing some questions come in. So if you have questions about the topics we're covering, or if you have questions about like the Ask Me Anything segment, I'm seeing some of that stuff come in. And I'm definitely going to get to Gigi the Reluctant Diva in just a bit. I see your question, and that's definitely one that's near the top of my list. And I definitely want to say hi to Edna, who's got some gifts coming in. I see that you're one of the top gift givers right now. I want to talk to my production team and say, Sarah, I am not seeing the gifts coming out on the list. So if you can make sure to put those on the document there, then I can make sure to shout everybody out. I see Kaylee. Hi, Kaylee. It's so good to see you. And I just want to make sure that I see everybody as much as possible. All right, let's go into our political fix, our positive update for this week. Don't really love talking about the negative, but I definitely like to keep you guys informed, but let's always try to balance that out. Oh my gosh, that thing is so cute. All right, I want that power on a regular basis. We definitely want to keep you guys balanced with some positive news stories as well. So our positive news story for this week has to do actually with, in a way, related to the topic we just got off of, which is Democrats showing more fight. Well, here's a positive instance where they actually are showing some of the tough grit that we would like to see more. All right, so let me tell you about what's going on within the Beltway with some judges. Right now, there is a fight and a race to get a bunch of judges that President Biden has appointed to shove them through the Senate as quickly as possible before new senators are sworn in January, where the balance of the Senate is going to change and become GOP-led instead of Democratically led. All right, why does this matter? Because these judgeships are lifetime appointments. They are not something that get renominated every 2 to 4 years. Judges can stay in these seats for decades on end, and they will impact things across the board. We do have a situation where the Supreme Court, in my opinion, is compromised, but even if you don't share that opinion, it is extremely conservative. Well, something has to make it as far as the Supreme Court to get heard there. And what stands in the way of some of this terrible policy that we're expecting in the future and the Supreme Court? It's judges in the federal positions. So we want for as many of these judges to be confirmed as quickly as possible, because they're going to have impact across the country for years and years to come. So let me give you some information that I brought to you. So scoreboard. So far, President Biden has appointed 223 judges. That is the second most. If you're wanting to know who had the most judges that they shoved through, that would be none other than the man who's about to occupy the office, which is at 234. But they have several days ahead, and the Senate, particularly Chuck Schumer, they have said that they are going to continue to hold extra hours, extra sessions, whatever is necessary to continue dozens and dozens of more appointments as much as possible. In fact, they made a deal with Republican senators to try to do so. What was that deal? Well, as you guys are painfully aware, whether you realize it or not, things can be held up in the Senate seemingly forever. Well, the reason they're able to go through the process fairly quickly with these judges and get them confirmed is because basically they made a deal with their Republican colleagues. Hey, if you don't give us, thank you for the flowers, so pretty, Kaylee. If you don't slow down this with procedural nonsense and you let us go through this list of judges, then there were 4 judges that Republicans had a strong objection to. We won't touch those. So it was basically good old-fashioned negotiating, so they're able to actually do the process in an expedited way. So President Biden appoints those judges, then it goes to the Senate, they have a quick hearing about it, they see if there's anything that needs to be tended to, and then they cast a vote. And if they win that vote, then congratulations, you've got yourself a brand new judge. All right, so just, I think today, 2 new judges sailed through, and I want to give you some context on who is currently going to be occupying this bench. Right now, 48 of the judicial nominees are public defenders. This is a big deal because most people are not defenders. They are prosecutors or they are corporate judges. So to have defenders who are on the bench who can see things from another perspective, that is extremely critical, and that alone is going to have a huge impact on our bench. So over 40 judicial nominees that have that public defense experience. Now, these are some fun statistics for you. 127 of these judges are women. Can I get a shout out from any of the women? Yes, there we go. Divine AF girl. That's what I'm talking about. So we have over 120, nearly 130 of these judges are women, and these are lifetime appointments. That is going to shape the bench, especially when you consider some of the laws that are likely to be introduced in some of these states. Out of those confirmations, 79 of them are women of color, including not just Black and Latino women, but also Asian women, Native American women, and Native Hawaiian women. That one I didn't think of, to be honest, until I saw it, but that makes total sense. Full representation. I love it. In general, Black judges, 58 Black lifetime judges. To give you an understanding, out of all of the lifetime appointments here, that is 30%. So Biden is responsible for 30% of the black judges that are being appointed. A lot of historic firsts as far as Latino and Latina judges, Native American judges, Asian American judges, and then openly LGBTQ judges. 11 of them with lifetime appointments, which ties the record by President Obama, who also appointed 11 LGBTQ judges. And then also something that I did not consider, I love the swirl, which is judges with disabilities. There are 2 lifetime appointments of judges who are known to be living with disabilities. Now, why does this matter? Because it checks a box? No, because it opens a perspective. If we have not walked in those shoes, then it is really easy to not understand what someone in front of you is going through and to just have a blind eye, to have a blind spot to some of the ways that our laws currently impact these different groups. So to have such broad cross-sectional representation is going to make a difference. But I've got some petty for you. You guys know that I love when we have these positive victories, but possibly just as much, I do love my petty when we get it. I told you Democrats are getting scrappy, and this one's super fun. All right, so in addition to the judges that I mentioned to you, 2 judges unretired. They had said that they were done serving on the bench. They announced their retirement, and that gives the presidency a signal that they can go ahead and start searching for candidates to fill their open seats once their term is up. However, when the election results came in, 2 of those judges said, nope, not so fast, and they withdrew their announcement of retirement. So they didn't want their judgeship to be replaced by the guy who's about to occupy the Oval, right? And I want to announce to all of you that if it wasn't already, as of today, irony is officially dead. This is breaking news that we got just a few hours ago, but one of the people who was so upset and rushed to the Senate floor to complain is none other than Senator Mitch McConnell. And I want to read this quote to you. He said, "This sort of partisan behavior undermines the integrity of the judiciary." Now, for those of you at home that have not been playing the soap opera that is politics as long as I have, let me give you a little backstory here. Senator Mitch McConnell was responsible for making sure that President Obama was not able to get a Supreme Court justice named at the end of his term. Why? Because he said it would be inappropriate to rush through an appointment right before the presidency might change hands. How long did he have, you might ask? 8 months. 8 months. He had 8 months to get that judicial appointment through, and he stalled. Why? Because he wanted to make sure that the new guy in office was able to fill it himself. Strangely enough, in 2020, when there was another vacancy that came through, he apparently didn't have the same moral issue. In fact, Amy Coney Barrett was rushed through the nomination process to sit on that very same Supreme Court just days before the election took place in 2020. So the man who played politics with our Supreme Court and arguably stole a Supreme Court seat from a Democratic president, he is concerned that partisan behavior is undermining the integrity of the judiciary. Whew, he likes to go out in style. I wish him a happy and hopefully expedient retirement very, very soon. So back to the story at hand. These judges are paying attention. They were ready to retire. They were ready to get an RV and go see the Grand Canyon. And instead, they are going to stay and serve in their positions as long as possible for the good of the country. I know we talk a lot about people getting it wrong, about people not fighting hard enough for us, but I wanted to share this story with you because that's not everyone. There are people making tremendous sacrifice that are doing the best that they can to try to do what they can for this country. I know that you all are among them, and I so appreciate you. Let me give a shout out to Maria Barajas, 3235, to Divine AF Girl, and to Kaylee. I am seeing Puck also on here. Good to see you tonight, Puck. And yeah, there's so many great people that are on here tonight. I'm seeing some familiar faces, and you guys are already up to almost 1,000 likes. That's amazing. Jackie, I just saw you. Wildflower, great to have you tonight. All right, we've covered our political buzz story, the Hunter Biden pardon. Oh, I saw the emotes. I didn't see who it was, but hello to whoever it is. Let me see if I can scroll down and catch you. Puck, it's you. I'm so happy to see you. And I'm also happy to see you, Wildflower627 and Lens. So great to see our Fixer community on tonight. Oh, love it. Mojo Smooch, love to see you. All right, let's go out and let's see. Likes update, we've got over 58,000. That's amazing. I want to say that if you missed part of the show and you want to catch the whole thing, then starting this week, we're going to be putting the lives out on a number of platforms on Thursdays. So our live nights, we've set them. It's going to be Tuesdays at 8:30 Eastern. We shifted them later so that our West Coast family can join us. But if that still doesn't work for you, don't worry. There's a couple of things you can do. You can go to politicalfixer.com on Thursdays and you'll have links to be able to see them for free on a number of different social platforms, including YouTube. And also, if you want to get your question answered, but you can't join the live, you can submit it on the contact form and let us know. And our team will get to as many of those as possible. And if you're a subscriber, of course, you're going to get top priority. And we're going to talk more about our subscriber benefits later. But let's go ahead and dive into our political action, our political fixer call to action this week. Now, coming up soon, we're going to be doing an update on equal rights for women. We've got a lot of fun things happening there, including a conversation I got to have with some members of the TikTok team about this. Very exciting. So we're going to be giving that update. We're going to give you a sneak peek of what's coming in January based on my meeting with TikTok in Hollywood. Very fancy. And then let's see, I'm going to answer Ask Me Anything questions. Including, I see 3 in particular. Gigi, the Reluctant Diva, we're definitely going to take your question about the Equal Rights Amendment. I see in Holmes 0330, I see your question about Mark Elias filing suits. I'm going to take my answer. I'm going to go ahead and give that to you quickly, as I have not read the new filings of these suits, but I have your handle there. So what I might do is take a look at those tonight and tomorrow and do a video and tag you in it once I have an educated opinion, because I think that's a really great question. If you're not familiar with Mark Elias, he is fantastic. He and his legal team, they just go into the mouth of the beast and fight for democracy. So in Holmes 0330, great question. Team, if you can email that to me, then I would love to try to, in the next 48 hours, get you a good answer and make sure that everyone can see it. Wildflower627, welcome. So glad to have you. I just saw you join the Political Fixer family. And then I see Al asking a great question. What do I think will happen to Mark Meadows now that Trump has been reelected and he flipped? And I think that's a great question as well. So we're going to definitely get to that in the Ask Me Anything segment shortly. But let me dive in really quickly to a call to action. For those of you that have been part of the Political Fixer family now for a few months, you know that sometimes I surprise you with homework. And that is the case tonight, because I want to make sure that you all know that no matter where you live, what you do, how long you've been interested in making a positive difference in your impact, in your community and in your country, it doesn't matter. You can make a positive impact. I promise you. And one of the things we're going to be doing that we'll talk about more later is bringing you tools and training and resources to do exactly that. And for tonight, I want to give you a call to action for the week that I think you might be excited about. As you may have been reading, or maybe not, maybe you're watching Netflix and Hallmark movies for your own mental health, and that's okay too. But there has been a lot of discouraging news coming out about the potential nominees of new cabinet and key picks by the incoming administration. It has sent a lot of alarm bells to many people that have been paying attention in the political world and people who work in the departments that these new nominees would be representing. Now, before you get discouraged, I want to say that this is ultimately a positive story, because I believe that there's one in particular that if we band together, we absolutely can stop. And I call into exhibit for making my case for you here tonight on Making a Difference, the fact that we no longer have a Matt Gaetz in consideration for a high position of power in our government. Why? Because people like you spoke up and you held people to account, even though all odds were against us. And we have no literal political power right now. You use the power of your voices, and you reached out to media, and you shared content, and you reached out to senators. Some of you were sending me messages about this, and it worked. And I don't think that shame exists in the Beltway, but I will tell you that I think political and media pressure does. So I'm calling on you for a repeat performance. And the case I would like to plead as our FIXER call to action of the week is to stop the confirmation of the nomination of a gentleman named Pete Hegseth. Now, I'm going to tell you why you should care. Pete Hegseth has been named as a nominee to serve as Defense Secretary. And if you don't know what that does, that's okay. Most people don't. They serve as the head of the Department of Defense, which seems kind of obvious, and so what? What does it mean? Well, I looked some stuff up for us. So the Department of Defense has a budget of $800 billion. That's with a B. That's almost $1 trillion. That is a number that I cannot fathom. Nearly $1 trillion of our national budget is in that department. That will become relevant and something I'm going to share with you in just a second. We have about 1.3 million active duty troops right now, and we have another 1.4 million men and women who are Americans who work in the National Guard, the reserves, and our civilian employees that support the Department of Defense. So the person who comes in as the Secretary of Defense, think of them as like the CEO of this gigantic business. And this business is larger than the company, the conglomerate of Walmart, which will also be relevant in just a second. Possibly equally as important as all of the lives, expenses, equipment, strategy, and everything that this person would be entrusted with, they would be also entrusted with our national secrets. They would receive arguably the most classified of our security briefings, and they would lead the strategic direction in many cases of our global conflicts with China, with Russia, in the Middle East, and whatever else happens over the next 4 years. It is an extremely critical position. So now let's talk about our nominee, shall we? I want to go over with you his experience, his views and his values as he has shared them with us, and his personal issues. And then we're going to talk about how to squash him. All right, here we go. So Pete Hegseth served in the infantry. He has never worked in the government. He has never held a position in any organization larger than a small nonprofit, which becomes relevant in just a moment. When asked about this nomination, a former Department of Defense official said, I wouldn't trust him to run a Walmart because that's how many employees we have. So he was the one that made that comparison, and it is extremely disconcerting that we would have someone with basically zero relevant experience in charge of such of a large department. In addition to that, a current Department of Defense official said he is a Fox News personality. Oh, that's right. I wanted to make sure that the fun surprise was left at the end of this description. Who is he and why was he nominated? He's a Fox News host. Yes, he's a veteran, but his most notable news is that he flattered and praised the guy about to enter the Oval Office on a regular basis and said that any people that are not loyal to the person who's about to occupy the Oval should lose their position in the military. He's here because he plays someone on TV. Okay, so that's great. What do we know about his beliefs, his values? What would he do in this position of power? Well, in his own words, he has said he would remove the ability for women to serve in combat. He would pardon service members who are charged with war crimes. That's super fun. He would eradicate the inclusion of any diversity programs in the military, which if you're not familiar with the makeup of our military, it is extremely diverse. That would be harmful to all of us across the country. And again, he believes that loyalty to the man holding the office in the executive branch of president is the most important thing. He would be a loyalist, which means he would look the other way if things were done that will violate the Constitution or his oath of office. All right. So for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Shawna Presley Vercher, the Political Fixer, and I'm assigning you with homework right now, which is what can you do with this? Now, first of all, when we have someone who is doing something outrageous like these nominations, it's really important that we not cede our power to them by just going along with it. If you possibly can, it's important that we try to raise our voices and create a little bit of havoc here, because if we don't create opposition, then we're not creating any political will for senators to do the right thing and deny this confirmation. So there are 3 things that you could do from the comfort of your own home, mostly from the comfort of your own phone, to try to stop this. Number 1, you can send texts, emails, or even call both the DC office and the home office of senators who are in office or who are about to take office that you think might be in the middle on both sides. Definitely, you can't call all 100 of them, right? But those that are considered to be moderates, you should definitely call them. Those that are in your state that are representing you, that is given more weight. They notate that in the record. So you want to reach out to them and express that this is putting our nation at risk, what your opinion is of this individual, and urge them not to confirm them. Will all of your messages reach all of the senators? No, but they do all have to get logged. And so some, even senators that you think don't care, they do. They care about looking bad. They definitely care about their image. They care about their ego. They care about maintaining power. So if they see that 1,000 calls came in against and 10 came in for, this will influence their vote. I promise you. Personal story here, a former U.S. senator cornered me at a cocktail party in a very nice professional way and pulled me to the side to ask me what I thought he should do about the Brett Kavanaugh vote. Now, ultimately, unfortunately, that vote didn't end up mattering, but that conversation influenced his opinion. And not only did he vote against Kavanaugh, he also used my talking points during his speech as to why he was voting against Kavanaugh. I had to explain to him in that moment what it would look like if he voted someone in who had not passed the verification test, that had the questionable history, what his constituents would think. They want to be liked. They want a win. So when you're leaving these messages, keep that in mind and try to show that it's really important and that you would appreciate them doing the right thing rather than screaming and yelling and getting nasty, which some of us sometimes feel like doing. The second thing you can do is you can write or email a letter to your editor of local newspapers in your area, and you can also send them to the local newspapers in the areas where these senators who are on the fence, their local papers, right? So you can send these letters in and ask them to publish them and to write the story. Your letter might end up in the paper, it might not, but if they see a lot of letters about the topic, they're going to be more likely to publish information and keep the story alive. And that brings me to my third thing that you can do to try to stop this nomination of Hegseth, which is comment and share articles, social media, clips, engage with content that exposes this guy's scandals. We're going to talk about those in just a second. But when you see an article like on CNN that says, a bumpy road ahead for the Hegseth confirmation, share it, like it, leave a comment if you can, post it on social. Why? Because they follow those engagement numbers and it will make the media report on it for longer. They're making more money from their advertisers. They're getting more traffic. So reward the behavior you want to see. So your 3 things are senators, local newspapers in your area and the area of those senators we're trying to influence, and engagement with media and social content to keep things top of mind. Now, that sounds like a little bit of work, and I get it, but let me give you some motivation. We talked about a couple of things that I don't care for with this guy, but let me give you a couple of other things that are concerning that have come up. Hegseth, who would be the head of a nearly $1 trillion budget of the Department of Defense, he was the head of a small nonprofit called Concerned Veterans for America. Since then, his colleagues have come forward to explain about his toxic behavior, poor leadership, and a poor work climate, and public intoxication, where he was yelling at strippers for some reason. Over a third of his budget was spent on such outings and parties and shenanigans, and he resigned in 2016 from this organization allegedly because of mismanagement of funds. So that's problematic with such a large budget. He was also investigated for alleged assault of a woman in 2017 by the police. That is not the only woman that has claimed that he assaulted her. In fact, there are several who have come forward, one of whom we have confirmed he has paid off. And I have to say allegedly here, but there is a clear pattern of behavior that is alarming. For me, I like to know, what do the people closest to him think? And in this case, we have some information from an email that was sent directly to him, obtained by the New York Times, from Penelope Hegseth, his mother. So I'm going to read you just a little bit of what this guy's mother said about him and what she thought was a private conversation. She says, quote, "On behalf of all of the women, and I know it's many, you have abused in some way, I say get some help and take an honest look at yourself. I have no respect for any man that belittles, lies, cheats, sleeps around, and uses women for his own power and ego. You are that man and have been for years. And as your mother, it pains me and embarrasses me to say that, but it is the sad, sad truth." Is this a guy that needs to have access to military grade weapons? No. The answer is no. He should not be in charge of the millions of women who are serving in our military and in our reserves. There are so many issues. So my request is, let's try to do what we can to stop this. We have weeks before the confirmation hearings start, and I think if we apply enough pressure that we can make a difference, just like we did with Matt Gaetz. So I'm asking all of you fixers for this to be your political fixer call to action for the week. And I have lovely fruit that agrees with me. All right, let's say hi to Edna, who is a new subscriber. Edna, it's so great to see you. I also am seeing a lot of gifts, but I'm not seeing all of them on the list, so I'll definitely shout them out as much as I can. I also want to let you guys know that we now had some tech upgrades from TikTok, so I'm able to log in and follow those of you that are the top gift givers and like engagers on these lives. I should be able to follow up to 50 of you at a time. So I'm going to try that out tomorrow and hopefully connect in an even more meaningful way. I see that we are already at nearly 98,000 likes, and I want to say hi to Lisa. Is it Aguirre or Aguirre? I want to make sure I say it right, but thank you, Lisa, for the lovely gifts. I really appreciate you. I'd love to know where you're from too, because that name looks familiar to me. Are you by any chance Texan? All right. We have a really great, did I say hi to Maria Barajas? I did. I want to say hello, and I want to get to Divine AF Girl and her question, because she asked a really great question about the Equal Rights Amendment, and I want to give you an update on where we are. Hi, Susan. Thank you so much. Hello, Abigail. So great to see you. I also see those of you in the comments just being so awesome to each other and engaging and building community there. That's amazing. Let me give you an update on getting women in the Constitution. For those of you that haven't had a chance to hear about it yet, this is brand new information. We, over the last couple of weeks, were able to work with the Federal Elections Commission and a number of different key organizations and groups to start a new organization called Equal Rights Now. This organization is going to have one singular focus, which is getting women finally into the Constitution. Now, we had this idea and this strategy. We're going to talk a little bit about what that strategy entails and how to get you involved. But when we talked about it briefly on a live prior to the holiday, we had over 600 of you sign up and say that you want to be involved in some way. We started an Equal Rights Now newsletter to engage you, and we're going to hold our very first live meeting. It's going to be on YouTube Live, and we're going to hold it in the first week back in January, and you're all going to be invited to that, where you can connect with other people and engage in getting this amendment passed. So Gigi asked a really great question, which is essentially, why haven't we done this before? Now, we're going to be talking a lot about why this hasn't happened, sharing some history with you. And in fact, we are working now on recording our new podcast series, which is going to be made available free for all of you starting in that same first week in January. We're very excited about it. And the very first episode is going to go into a lot of detail on the research we've been able to do. And let me just give you the short answer for now. In the 1960s and early 70s, when this was brought up for a second time, it was brought up by the original suffragettes, by the way, but they weren't able to get everything through. The amendment that gave women the right to vote specifically said rights of women to vote rather than rights of women, and just, gave us the whole kit and caboodle. They were not able to push it through and get full equal rights at that time. Then the organizers of the some of the feminist movement in the late 60s, early 70s made a huge push for an amendment to the Constitution at that time. It was making huge headway. It was sailing through Congress. Everybody seemed to be supportive of it. And if you want to watch a really great series on FX, which I think is on Disney Plus right now, called Mrs. America. It's a great limited series that tells you a lot more about this history. But essentially what happened is the woman who got together an army of other women to oppose equal rights had two really great arguments that were highly effective. The first is that she said that by passing the Equal Rights Amendment, it meant that you were against children and marriage and a traditional home, and that women would be forced into the workforce. And so it pitted women against each other. So that was extremely toxic, and it made it extremely hard to move the amendment forward. The second thing that she did, which is kind of brilliant, she convinced people that if the Equal Rights Amendment passed, that women, particularly young girls, would have to go into the draft for war. And this was very effective during the Vietnam War, where we were losing young men by the thousands in a war that seemed endless. So by convincing people of a falsehood that the Equal Rights Amendment would mean that our daughters would get drafted into war, then she was able to stop the momentum that had been built up and to make sure that enough states did not get behind the Equal Rights Amendment. Then you fast forward to the late 90s, early 2000s, and you had another wave of people that tried to organize through primarily the National Organization for Women. And that amendment stalled. Now, there were a couple of reasons for that. One of them is women felt equal. We had a great economy. We were still riding high on the Clinton economy. We were seeing women in powerful positions on television and movies. We were getting appointed to more executive roles. And so it seemed like kind of a dated concept that someone would need to give us equality. We felt equal. I mean, after all, it's not like someone would write a bunch of legislation and just target women and our bodies and our health, right? How times have changed. So one of the main things is there wasn't a lot of will or resources or organizing around this amendment that time. People were begging for others to pay attention to it. During that time, I happened to briefly be the national director of policy for the National Organization for Women. So I witnessed some of these conversations of some of these amazing icons that I had read about, trying to rally the troops and get everyone to care about equal rights for women. And then a second thing happened, which was they had this amendment that no one was really excited about. They couldn't get funding for it. They couldn't get people to pay attention to. Everybody was saying that it was silly and antiquated. That was on one hand. They could have focused on that for longer and tried to push it through, but it was kind of a thankless job. But on the other hand, they could focus their resources and energy on something else that was happening in 2016, which was they had a woman who was running for president, Hillary Clinton. And so I was actually in the room in a national conference for the National Organization for Women when they decided that they were going to put a lot of their energy there. They had put in a lot of work. No one is blaming them. But that is the real answer, Gigi, on what happened to the Equal Rights Amendment. And since then, people have retired, groups have splintered, focus has been fractured, but that's where all of you come in, because we would like to put together a large organization of women and our allies to make sure that we pass equal rights for women. We're going to do this by going to the 38 states who have ratified, plus the 12 that I believe we can try to flip. And we are trying to get as many of them to re-ratify, to say, yes, we still would like equal rights for women as possible. And in fact, we have a big announcement that we are just now sharing, which is brand new for us, which is our television show, The Political Fixer, is actually going to chronicle these efforts. So you're going to see in real time a TV series that shows our progress on the equal rights for women quest. So you can all be a part of this in real time. If you want to get involved, right now we have over 600 people saying they want to get involved, which is amazing. And you can go to politicalfixer.com. politicalfixer.com. Tell us what you want to do. If you don't know yet, that's okay. We'll train you and we'll make sure that you get invited to the newsletter that we're going to be sending out starting now every week. And we're also going to be inviting you to the first big meeting, which is a virtual meeting in January, as well as events that we have across the country. We need a lot of people and a lot of voices, no matter what your talent is, no matter how long you've been doing this kind of work. This is actually a super positive project that I think could make a difference. And TikTok agrees. I'm going to tell you what TikTok had to say when I got the opportunity to sit down with them personally and share with them what we're working on. But before I do that, I definitely want to make sure that I acknowledge our people that are doing such a great job. Jackie Martinez, it's so great to see you this evening. I also want to say hi to Mojo Smooch. I know I saw you earlier, but I just see you so busy in the comments and everything. I am seeing our team. I want to say another shout out to Sarah and Eddie and Jason and Mia, who are doing such a great job. And I see Starlit Canopy saying, you're in Canada. Can you help with this movement? Absolutely. Because spreading the word and getting more people involved, and also coming up with ideas and social graphics and t-shirts that we can offer, and who should we be talking to, and what podcaster or TikTok creators should be talking about this, asking questions that others might have, getting involved in tracking and sharing the data on these states as we're trying to get things moving forward, reaching out to different companies and seeing if they want to sponsor some of these efforts. There's so many different things that you can do to help. So no matter what your talent is, we want to have your input no matter where you are in the world. Okay, we have over 119,000 likes. We are doing really great this evening. I want to give you one other quick update on Equal Rights Now. We have a new web presence, and oh my gosh, Vivian, that is gorgeous. Thank you. We have a new web presence that's going to be launching in the next few weeks. We have new information we're going to be sharing with you on ways you can communicate safely with each other. TikTok has been extremely welcoming about this, but hey Grandma Deb, but we don't want to leave everything to one platform. So we're going to make sure to create safe spaces and communities where you can make sure you can reach me at any time and the Political Fixer team and the Equal Rights Now community. But we also want to make sure that you can communicate with each other. So before I pivot to the next topic, I want to let you know that we're also going to be launching Equal Rights Network, where we support other women and women-friendly organizations. So if you're already doing something that's great advocacy in your community, if you have a small business that's either targeted to women or women-owned, if you're a female author or an artist, then we're going to be providing opportunities to highlight you as well. Because the amendment and equality is definitely our goal, but we can't get there without supporting each other. And if we're being really honest about a couple of the shortcomings of the movements prior to us, it's that the people at the table were not nearly diverse enough. We did not have nearly enough voices at that table, and we want to welcome as many perspectives as possible. So we want to make sure that we get your small business, your advocacy organization, if you're a woman running for office, if you are an author or an artist, we want to make sure to amplify you as well. So when you sign up to help and get informed, we'll make sure that we connect you to others as well so that we grow and rise together. Okay, so we're getting near the Ask Me Anything segment. And so whatever questions you have for the Political Fixer, now would be a great time to send them so that the Political Fixer team can gather those questions and I can answer them right after I give you this update from TikTok and what to expect in January. So definitely submit those questions and let us know where we're at. We're at over 125,000 likes. And if you missed anything or you want to go back and take some notes or share some of this content, it'll be posted on Thursday on politicalfixer.com. All right, let me give you some fun updates that this is the first time we're able to talk about publicly. When I received an invitation to meet with some TikTok team members, as well as some of the top creators across the country, then it was extremely exciting and very covert. They didn't give me the specifics and the address until the day before. It was all very hush-hush. Do not forward this email. This is super secret. Do not share this with anything, or this message will self-destruct. Not literally, but it felt like that. It was so covert that even the night before, our Political Fixer team member, Eddie, was like, are we sure this is not an elaborate kidnapping scheme? It turned out that no, thankfully, it was actually TikTok who was inviting me and about 150 other creators to Hollywood to sit down and talk about what is coming and how it could impact all of you and our communities, both from our direct perspectives, how we help with the political fixer community, but also all of you who are creators of content. So let me tell you some of the things that TikTok shared with me that hopefully you find useful. The first thing is they shared a lot more information about their algorithm, about the tags, about their features, about what they want to highlight. And so part of building a great community is supporting each other. So in January, we're going to be offering free content, training modules, and sometimes even online classes that if any of you are trying to grow your TikTok or online communities, we want to try to help with that, because it can be really frustrating to try something and then just see if the algorithm on high works and anybody is paying attention. So we're definitely going to be sharing some of that TikTok strategy with you so that you can grow your own accounts and amplify your voices as well. So they gave us permission on what we're allowed to share and not share. So I'm excited that actually there's more that I'm allowed to say than I originally thought. So I'll be able to bring you more of that content. And on that note, they are also allowing us to share longer content with our subscribers. So right now I can do up to 10 minutes of videos, which I know it's a long video, especially for some of you Generation Z. I get that 10 minutes seems like forever. But if I'm going to do a training module, then sometimes I need 20, 30 minutes, even longer. So they're going to give us that ability to be able to share longer training modules directly with you as our subscribers. So you won't have to go to another platform, and you can get longer form content that you can access whenever you would like. We're also going to be able to offer you different promo codes, deals, links, and access to things outside of the TikTok platform. They've guided us through that. So some of the things that you'll be receiving are promo codes to our Equal Rights Now shop and our Political Fixer shop, early access to some of the books and training courses that we have, access to some exclusive content, including extra segments on our podcast. So we're going to be able to get that stuff to you and create a world that extends beyond the TikTok walls. But possibly to me, one of the most exciting things that came out of my meetings with TikTok in Hollywood was when they asked me a very fair question, which is, you're the political fixer, the election is now over, it didn't exactly go the way that you had hoped, so what's next? And when I shared with them what we were planning on working on with Equal Rights for Women, they could not have been more excited or more supportive. So they are going to be amplifying that content, and they're going to help us identify other creators who will share information about equal rights for women, and so that we can help boost them. So this is going to become something that I hope you all get engaged in. So one of the things you can do is, as we have content, if something is interesting to you, if there's a story that you hear that I talk about on the podcast, or data that we share on our Equal Rights Now platform, or something that's happening in your state as we're tracking it and trying to get them to re-ratify, use it. Take it. Let us boost you. And we also are going to have opportunities for you as creators to be part of the Equal Rights Now team and actually earn revenue from the growth of this movement, and also for us to do some Flintstones and Jetsons joining of forces together. I know I'm dating myself with that reference, but I was always so happy when the universes collided. So we're going to have a Flintstones and Jetsons moment where some of our creator people, including you, I hope, we'll be able to interview each other and swap stories and help boost each other's channels. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to start doing all that. We're spending the next few weeks cleaning the house, getting ready for company to come over, so to speak, and we'll include you guys in as much of this as possible. The best way to do that is to give us your email address either on politicalfixer.com, or if it lets you, try to message me and I'll let you know if I get it. And that way we're going to send you a weekly newsletter of what's happening and how you can get involved. We're not going to sell your information. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to offer you, all these crazy, gimmicks or anything. This is just going to be relevant to what we're working on, and we'll give you ways to plug in with each other, including on the Equal Rights Network. So that's what's lying ahead for us. I know that after the election, many of us were feeling very deflated, but I actually am feeling extremely positive and excited. One other personal thing I want to share with you that happened in LA when I was there meeting with not just the TikTok team, which was amazing, but possibly for me, even more rewarding, was meeting with some of the other creators. I will admit to you that I do not consider myself very trendy when it comes to TikTok. I don't know everyone. There were people were pointing at like, oh my gosh, that's so-and-so. I didn't know who they were. I am new to your world and I'm trying to play catch up. But even though I didn't know them coming in, I felt so connected to so many of them coming out. There was a young woman who does beauty tips. And, I was talking to her about her content, and she was saying that she follows the political fixer community because she cares about members in the LGBTQ community that she's friends with. There is a young woman that does lifestyle content, and she's from Ukraine. And so she has obvious concerns and is plugged into what we're trying to do and wanting to make a positive difference as well. I know that it feels like there are so many negative and nasty people out there right now. And I read some of my comments. They do exist. But at the same time, there are so many of us that we're tired, we're weary, but we're not worn out. And I want you all to focus on trying to practice self-care. We just posted a video today about how to practice self-care when you're feeling burnout, but also get ready for some really great things in the year to come. All right, we're going to get to the Ask Me Anything segment. We are at over 135,000 likes. That's amazing. Let's go ahead, and we got Gigi's question. I want to talk to, let's see. Keaton Wilson, do I really think Harris and her team are investigating Trump? I've heard nothing to that effect, but I will tell you, Keaton, that if they were good at their jobs, I shouldn't hear anything. Now, I have made some asks. I have asked some inside sources based on some questions you guys gave me right before the holiday in our last live. Some of you asked, listen, are they going to challenge this? Are they going to do anything? And I've got to tell you, everyone that I've talked to is on the inside. They are so busy jockeying for the new positions, blaming each other and pointing at failures. I have not heard of a concerted effort to do any due diligence with voter protection or even eradicating voter suppression. Now, that's the negative. Here's the positive. I do think that as the dust settles, it will become more of a focus. I just think we're not going to hear a lot about that. I think this election is locked. I think there's not much that we can expect to see happen there. I do think it will become more of a topic as we get closer to midterms. Not a lot of comfort, but the good news is we're all still here communicating, trying to organize, talking with each other, still building a family online. We can make that a big deal as far as voter integrity, combating voter suppression. We can do that moving forward together. And that is a very high priority for me. 62 and Tired asked a really great question that say that people on TikTok are saying that Biden could do something to help pass the Equal Rights Amendment for women. Can I explain? Absolutely, 62 and Tired. What a great question. Okay, so in order for an amendment like this to pass, then you have the language of the amendment that gets voted on, and 75% of the states have to agree on it. That's called ratifying it. They basically hold a vote and they say, yes, we in this state want this amendment in the Constitution. 75% of the states is 38 states. Now, in 2020, the 38th state did ratify. They did say, yes, we would like that. It was the state of Virginia. And when they ratified, we did it. Yay, huzzah, equal rights. However, no, when it came time to enter it into the national records and add it to the Constitution, people said, oh, you took too long. Constitutional lawyers are like, what are you talking about? That wasn't supposed to be a thing. How do you mean we took too long? Some people are saying, yep, we think you took too long. And so they basically bickered about it. And so if you ask 5 different attorneys if that's a real thing, you'll get 5 different answers. Now, how does this bring us to Biden? Because some people believe, listen, ignore the people who are criticizing you. Just get the person whose job it is, which I believe is the archivist. Just get them to add it to the Constitution. You have the 38 amendments. Make them challenge you after it's done. Could he do that technically? The short answer is, I think technically, yes. I'm not an attorney, but I did look into this when we were asking this. I've been talking to attorneys. Do I think he will? Highly unlikely. He is not a guy that likes to rock the boat. And we just saw him use a very legal tool, which is a presidential pardon. There were over 100 presidential pardons in the last term, and he got eviscerated for it. So I don't think that he's going to do it. Now, I would love it if I was wrong. But that's why 62 and Tired, we are seeing people call on him to step up and do it. If you are someone who wants to add your voice to that, go ahead. What is the harm? Because even if we're not successful, one of the things we have to do is the procedure, the policy, this whole thing of, hey, you ran out of time. Fine, then we'll start the clock over and we will get these states to re-ratify. We're going to beat them at their own game. That's that process. But in order for that to work, we have to create media pressure and political pressure. So let's start that now. So there's absolutely no harm in creating that political pressure now and calling for this and getting it in the attention of the media. So you can ask for it. I just realistically don't see it happening. I want to thank Vix. That's such a pretty gift. All right, let's keep going with the Ask Me Anythings. Julie Stevens-Lowe says, do you believe he legitimately won the election? I feel like something was off. Julie, I in the last TikTok said that I had no evidence to believe that something was off. If you're asking me, does it feel very off? Yes. Based on every poll, exit poll, conversation, focus group, debate outcome by any measurable standard, yes. And I have had a few weeks, just like all of you, to let this process. But do I have any tangible information? My short answer is not yet. Here's my commitment that I'm going to make to all of you, however. I'm not someone that thinks that necessarily the outcome will change based on anything we find. We could find someone on video hamburgling ballot boxes, and do I think it will matter at this point? Realistically, no. But do I think for our own mental health, we need to know what's happening? Yes. So one of the things I plan on doing during the holiday break is I want to look deeper at this and tell you what I find. So I'm committing to doing that and then doing a specific podcast episode and then bringing anything notable to you all and TikToks as well based on what I find. My short answer, Julie, is I don't feel like I have enough information yet. So when it's quiet and when I'm not exhausted and when I'm not deeply in my stage of grief, then I want to take some quiet time over the break and look into this and give you all a credible answer. Many of you have sent me that question. Some of you have sent me some videos to watch. I want to do my own homework and I want to get back to you with some real information right after the first of the year. I know it seems like we should move faster, but I feel like unless we see something, now if we see something and it's, again, it's something really outrageous, obviously I'll bring that to your attention sooner. Stop the presses. Tell Santa to hold on. We're going to talk about these votes. But unless that happens, then we'll do it within the first part of January. Okay. So Cheryl M., why do you believe the same states will ratify equal rights now? So we're going to start, Cheryl, with the states that were super excited to ratify the first time. And the reason that I think that it will work is it is a no harm, all good stuff show of ceremony, which politicians love. They won't have a lot of downside to saying that they support equal rights for women. They love getting in the news. We have television cameras that are going to be there capturing the whole thing for our series. And if you think politicians love, the attention on a normal day, get a television camera in front of them. So we'll definitely have their attention. You all are already coming together and building a sizable community. And one of the things we're asking for from you is to tell us if you feel comfortable where you're from so that we can go to representatives and say, hey, we've got this many people in your area that are supportive of this. So we think we can apply some positive carrot-filled political pressure. Hey, listen, do this and vote on this very positive thing to re-ratify. It is largely ceremonial to them. They've already said yes. So again, very low stakes. But Democrats in particular kind of took a beating in this last election cycle. There were some bright spots, but not very many. They need a win. And this is a way to get a legislative win that isn't as controversial as some of the other topics they're going to be taking up on the agenda. Also, a lot of Republicans agree that women should have equal rights, and even those that might be a little bit iffy, I'm not talking about the extremists, but your moderate Republicans, they agree that they need the votes of women to get reelected. So we're going to create a positive, rewarding atmosphere. That's part of the reason for Equal Rights Network, by the way, is to hold those politicians accountable and publish what their vote is and reward them with visibility when they sign up to do the right thing. And so we believe that re-ratification, especially starting with some of the states that were most excited to get behind this to begin with, will actually be much easier than the original ratification. And we think that's going to then create a momentum where other people want to be a part of it. We basically want to create a trend and peer pressure. And so we'll get corporations and media and of course you as voices and voters and say, hey, listen, let's push this thing through. Nothing was really wrong with it to begin with. The problem was people lost the political will to support it. And the women that had been doing so much of this thankless work before, they didn't have enough support to feel like they could continue and do it all the way there. So I think now this idea that women are technically equal, I think that when I was with the National Organization for Women, we would warn women who were like saying, oh, I don't know if I want to vote. I don't like getting involved in politics. We would warn them of what could happen to their rights if they didn't get involved in politics and they didn't learn what was at stake. And we sounded like the crazy people. We sounded like we were making up horror stories. Well, now when you look at what's happening to women in the news, when you look at who's being appointed to high positions of power and how they treat women, this idea that women are equal, we now see that equality was tacit at best. It was permission based, and it was you're equal unless we think that you're not, unless we want to take this right away, unless we want to look away when this happens to you, unless you're demanding equal pay, unless you would like your diseases researched at the same rate as men, unless you would like to feel safe on social media, and the list goes on and on. If you ask most women if they would like better protections for themselves, the answer is overwhelmingly yes. And I think now we have so many more men who are allies to strong women that are also going to be standing beside us. So I think it's a different time now, and that this is our moment. And honestly, what do we have to lose? Because I don't know about you, but I cannot just sit here and watch our rights get eradicated. And not just for myself, but I have a daughter who's in college. And for those of you with children and grandchildren and the generations beyond us, this is work that could really have a tremendous impact for years and years and years to come, and we can be a part of it. Think about it. If a TikTok generation comes up and passes a constitutional amendment, how great would that be? Okay, Eric is asking a really great question that I can't wait to get to. So this is it Davila? D-A-V-I-L-A, Eric Davila. Who do you think can bring Dems together in 2028 and get us fired up and off the couch? Woo! That is such a great question, Eric. As far as the who, I think it's going to depend on what is the worst, how to say this in a nice PG way. What is the worst screw up that's going to happen in the next 4 years? And what do people consider to be the antidote to that screw up? And I don't know what that looks like yet, but we are a very emotional people. We have a very short, just overall, we have a very short memory about political stuff. We are exhausted. We don't follow the news all the time, generally speaking. And so I believe it's going to be very reactive. So I think, for example, if there are a lot of awful things that happen to immigrants, I would look for a Latino or Latina president to rise. If this trend of viciously stripping women of their rights and their humanities and their health and their safety continues, I would look for it to be a woman. If it is something where we get into a big military conflict, I would look for someone with military experience. If it's something where we have an economic crash, I would look for someone with big business experience that seems solid at the helm that would be able to grow our economy. So I think that it's going to be reactive based on what happens. But there's a second part to your question, Eric, that I think is really great, which is what's going to get us fired up and off the couch? And what I think is going to do that, if I'm being just absolutely honest with you, is I think we have to stop depending on legacy media and the traditional party structure to organize us. They are too big. They are a dated set of entities. And I love the people that give of their time for the Democratic Party, but we need more. We need a media platform where we are thousands of us repeating the same stories and sharing the same talking points and getting everybody riled up 18 months before the election even happens. We need to start sharing information between advocacy organizations and start knocking on doors for the rights that we know our supporters are excited about months before the election. I think it's great to volunteer for campaigns, but I think that we need to get organized as a community way before and not let legacy media dictate our talking points. We need to start forming our own media community and supporting each other and amplifying each other's messages. And then the other thing is, I think we need more real people running for Congress. I think we settle for these Melba Toast candidates that are very hard to get behind just because the party thinks that they can raise money. I've seen that happen time and time and time again. And so people that are really exciting, that could invigorate voters and get them out, that would make tremendous leaders, if they're not really great at fundraising or their father isn't wealthy and connected, they don't even have a chance to get out of the primary. So that's another way that we can organize and start supporting some of those candidates very early and amplifying them and getting them the media attention online and things. Because if we had more real people running for these other offices, if you're bringing someone to the polls for a congressional race that I love this person, I'm so excited to vote for them, they're in my neighborhood, you're going to vote for president. That's how it works. You're not going to go there, vote for Congress, and then leave. So we need more people that are very charismatic and real humans to run for those offices. So first thing is, as far as who's going to jockey for, being the belle of the ball in 4 years, I think they're going to respond to what's happening in the news and by this administration. I think we're going to have very little control over that until way too late. So in the meantime, we need to organize, we need to build our own media infrastructure and support each other. And then we need to support our own advocacy groups and get more of you running for office and working in these campaigns. And I'll do anything that I can to help with training, resources, connections, you name it. We're going to be here by the time midterms come around to help support any of you that want to make a difference, either with your name at the top of the ticket or maybe working for one of those great people to get them into office. Really great question. All right. I know that we have a couple of more questions. I'm going to give one more question and then we're going to wrap with our top things. Black Cat Mama says, do you think bringing back the 50-state strategy would help connect with working class people? It's a great question. As far as reaching out to all 50 states, the answer is yes. Now, to be fair, Jamie Harrison tried some of that as the head of the Democratic Party. He made sure that every single state received some funding and attention in this last cycle, but it doesn't change on a dime. For those of you that might have watched some of my earlier lives as the political fixer, I have worked on races in places like Alabama. I've worked on legislation in Louisiana. I helped to flip the U.S. Senate seat in Alabama when Doug Jones was elected. I can tell you that it takes remarkably little to help support these states. They need attention, they need resources, they need training and volunteers, and they need hope. They need to be convinced that something is possible. Once they see that, their donors start to make money, they start to, to contribute money, their volunteers start showing up, they start to get a momentum that is just so hard when it feels hopeless. So we absolutely need to invest in these states. And we see what happens when we do. Georgia was the result of a lot of investment and hard work from people like Latasha Brown and Stacey Abrams and Black Votes Matter and all these people that were organizing. That's what made a Raphael Warnock possible. That's what made Georgia flip in 2020. And then they didn't receive as much support when those Senate races were over. They didn't have as many resources, and we weren't able to do it again in 2024. That work pays off. It is difficult work, but it matters. And so many of these states are flippable. Louisiana just had a Democratic governor. Kentucky has a Democratic governor. So we can't give up on them, and we need to meet them where they are. But Black Cat Mama, I gotta say this or else, I feel like I'm not doing my job here. We have to go listen to what the people in their state, they're telling us before we just come in and pretend like we have all the answers. We can't just come in with money and executives and polling and shiny ads and say, here you go, you're welcome. We really need to engage in a meaningful way and listen to what's happening in those states and not expect that a message that works in New Hampshire is going to work in Tennessee. So without selling out our values, I know that there's a way to find common values and yes, implement a 50-state strategy. And if I'm being honest, I think that's one of the benefits that we have working on this constitutional amendment is we get a chance in a non-threatening way to get to know each other and travel to some of these states and communicate with each other so that we can kind of lay some groundwork for helping to get people organized. This is about sharing the ideas and the concepts of movement building and the training behind it as much as it is anything else. All right, speaking of sharing, it has been wonderful to share some time with all of you. King Bats, this is amazing. There's so many messages coming in from these awesome people that are sharing gifts and things. We hit over 160,000 likes. Okay, Sarah, can you just signal for me in the sheet? Are these our top 3 viewers right now? What I'm seeing on the sheet? Can you let me know? We're going to unveil what our top subscribers are. However, if your name isn't called, don't worry. I get about, I think, the top 50 now from TikTok. So I'm going to go through and follow as many of you as I can. Make sure that if you can, you follow me at Political Fixer. If you have ideas for the show next week on topics you want us to cover, please send them to us. And I'm seeing from Sarah that yes, these are our top viewers. Okay, so we're going to go number 3, drum roll here. Divine AF Girl. It's so great that you were able to join us. You're our number 3 engaged audience member today. I'll make sure to follow you. And then Vivian, thank you so much. Linz is in there squeezing it in though. You're so close, Linz. Vivian is number 2. So great, Vivian. I will follow you after this live. And then Mojo Smooch. Mojo Smooch is our top follower for tonight, our top viewer. We're going to come up with a cool name. If you guys have suggestions on a cool name, let me know. And then also we had some tech glitches with TikTok, but we are getting all of our subscribers a free copy of A Fearless Voice, which is a novel we'll be publishing with new chapters in January. That is the true gut-wrenching story of how I became the political fixer. Spoiler alert, she lives, but you can ask anyone who's read it. It's a pretty harrowing tale. So we'll make sure that all of you get access to that. We had a technical glitch trying to get it to you before, but TikTok has worked with us to say how we're allowed to share files with you. So we'll make sure that all of you get that. Subscribers, you'll get a special video message from me. For all of you, you'll be able to view this TikTok live through politicalfixer.com on Thursday. Please, please, please sign up to get involved in Equal Rights Now. Let us know what's going on with you so that we can amplify it. I'm so glad to see all of you after the holiday. I know we've got a long holiday road ahead of us, but I'm hoping that I put a little bit of a smile on your faces and a spring on your step. I will be here next week, 8:30 Eastern, Tuesday. We'll be doing our lives again on Tuesday, and we'll be offering more fun emotes for subscribers as well. We had Kamala and Joe and Gwen. Those will stay, but if you have any cool fictional or real strong women that you would like to see as emotes, let us know. Our artist is hard at work as we speak, working on new emotes for all of you. I don't want to give all of them away, but one of my personal faves might be among them. So definitely let us know who you would like to see as a strong woman. That's going to be our next set of emotes that all of our subscribers get. So definitely let us know who you would like to see in that list. And until next time, everybody, stay safe, make a difference, and I'll see you all soon.